All right, we are officially live for the Friday edition of the Mike and Mario show. And what an interesting week, to say the least. But here we are now trying to wrap it all up and pack it together, help it make sense for everybody. And so looking forward to doing that. But before we dive in any further, Mario, how you doing, my friend?
I'm well, Mike, and you?
Not bad at all. Weather's changing. It's getting a little nippy out here, a little dark out here, but life goes on. And of course, we got a lot of things to cover. So let's just jump right in. So, hope everyone that's tuning in bring something to the table. Feel free to throw out some thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the chat. And then towards the end of just going through some of the headlines here, we'll open up and get a little Q&A. And depending on time, might get a couple people to join us on screen. So if you're interested in joining, being a part of the live stream here, definitely feel free to log in. We'll get you a link and you can just let your voice be heard. So, all right, Mario, man. So before we went online, you're talking about the word on the street, or a lot of things you've been putting together about the overall economy and how the probability of things are not doing as well and it's starting to kill over. Let's go into that a little bit because I'm curious to hear. I got some questions I want to ask you. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can just look at the bond market and how yields have dropped in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that is a signal that investors, speculators, Wall Street expect that things are slowing down. And we're seeing economic numbers. I think I forgot which one was out last week, but they were weak as well. Yesterday, we had jobless claims. They were a lot higher than expected. We saw industrial production really weak, and just reading through articles in the papers and everywhere, it looks like yeah, people are saying now, oh, the central banks like the FT, they were saying the central banks, Bank of England, they need to stop, at least raising rates, which they kind of have.
Mm-hmm.
But now everyone's clamoring for rate cuts. You sent some articles as well about people talking about deflation.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, though, is that a lot of these people don't even know what deflation or inflation is.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean the classical definition. What they mean is that prices have slowed down, the
Yeah.
rise. And also after CPI this week, it was a tenth lower than expected. And the markets assume, they were euphoric just because of that. And
Yeah.
actually, I heard Jamie Dimon say, don't get your hopes up, but it looks like the markets are clamoring for more and more liquidity. And we had also data in the UK today. Retail sales are very weak, and I think it's happening not just here, but all across the board around the Western world. So
Yeah.
that's the feeling I'm getting, that we're not going to see any more rate hikes, uh, and very possibly rate cuts
Mhm.
early to mid next year.
Yeah, a lot sooner than later. And so just bring some stuff up here. So here is one of the graphs from the Zero Hedge article about core CPI, and ultimately it's still twice as high, or double what the mandate is of 2% as of now. And so at this current pace, I was looking at this little graph here, and we're at that 4%, yada yada, whatever their figures. And so, will there be a reversal downward, or will the thing shoot back up? And how does that play into heading into 2024? Just because at this current moment, things aren't looking good. You talk about a Fed pivot sooner than later. Will this thing, tick back up? Once that pivot occurs, will be the major question. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, core CPI excludes food and energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's dependent on that. We saw that the Biden administration, they sold loads of reserves, petroleum reserves that helped prices down. But yeah, things are slowing down now because rates have risen a lot. Mortgage rates have risen, credit card rates. Also, banks are in trouble and they're probably not lending as much. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing about CPI is that it's so tinkered with. I read an article, you probably saw it, that the
Yeah.
headline CPI, the health insurance costs apparently went down 34 or 36% in the last year, which is crazy. It didn't, and so they can put anything they want in there. They said that food prices only went up 3.2% a year. I'm sure it's a lot more.
Yeah.
But so I guess CPI could go lower. Could it go negative? It rarely ever does, CPI, the growth negative. So I don't see it going much further down.
Mhm.
And I expect, because I think, was it with you? I think it was with you, or no, it
Mhm.
was on Sunday, my live stream. I was talking about a Bank of England exercise for a major bond market collapse, which means higher yields.
Mm.
And they said we'd blame this on it would be because of geopolitical thing. And even though the Israel situation is kind of going off the radar a little bit,
Mhm.
it's still trouble out there. So we could very easily see oil go back up, not because of the strong economy, but because the Iranians might close the Strait of Hormuz.
Mhm.
We can see trouble at the Suez Canal,
Mm.
and energy prices go back up. The CPI could go back up. And the other thing as well, Mike, they might tell us, oh, CPI is not growing, it's 0%,
Mhm.
year on year. But people feel it and people know it, and they're not going to buy into it. And how do they react? Well, they're going to still keep buying things because they know it's going to keep going up. So yeah, they can fool us for a short time, and that's why I think when I say they're going to reinflate and cut rates, I mean
Mhm.
they're going to increase credit, and we're going to see, M1 and M2 start rising again.
Yeah.
They dropped in the last year and a half. They've kind of stabilized now, and I think they'll pick up next year.
Yeah, and here's a little headline from the tweet you shared or whatever about from Wall Street Journal says the global fight against inflation has turned a corner, and so
Yeah,
I think it was
that's one of the articles that I saw. I saw
yeah.
the same thing yesterday. One of the columnists in the FT, he's an Uber globalist, saying the same thing. So when the FT and the Wall Street Journal are pushing something, it means that it's probably might. But I think what it will do, it will create a massive asset bubble
Mhm.
uh, in the next 12, maybe 18 months.
Yeah. So here we got consumer prices change. So UK, US, Eurozone. So according to their figures, they've been doing a good job of fighting inflation. But then again,
Yeah.
further kicking the can down the road and causing more mess that's soon to be determined. So yeah, interesting, man. So we will see. But here's a couple of those other headlines about the word deflation. So Walmart CEO expects to see period of deflation in the coming months. And then we had Kathy Woods predicts the deflation in U.S. next year. And of
The
course,
thing
and
is,
all this before the pivot, before the Fed pivot type of thing. So
yeah, I mean, the thing here is the definition, because since last year, last 18 months or so, since we've had deflation, if you look at the classical definition, M1 and M2,
yeah,
on a real basis has come down, and we still have had rising prices, which just goes to show how debased the currency is. And these people don't understand deflation. And so I don't want to be arrogant, but I would probably ignore whatever that woman says or whoever talks about deflation.
yeah.
What they might mean is like a slowdown in the economy,
Mhm.
but you can have a slowdown like we're having here in the UK and still have prices rising. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes into what we talked about before about stagflation. Stagflation, or I called it what a hyper stagflationary crisis, where
Yeah,
everything
that
is
could
upside
happen
down,
as
nothing
well,
makes sense.
where you can have very high inflation, where you have asset prices like come down, but everything that you need, all the basic necessities of life are really expensive.
Mhm. All right, so let's keep it moving. What else we got here? So, other news out this week. It looks like more can kicking down the road, and so there was a temporary,
Hmm.
temporary 60 days, 75 days extension of the spending limit or spending bill. So Biden signs a temporary spending bill to avert government shutdown. And so the question is, how much longer will they be doing these 60, 90-day can kicking mechanisms? Because DC is becoming more and more divided amongst the House and the Senate. So they won't be able to agree on much. And so it looks like this was a no-brainer to get done just because they didn't want to go into the holiday season
Yeah.
with pressure on their back. But it says funded until January 19th and others till February 2nd. So we'll be back here again. And it only
Yeah.
gets worse. Go ahead.
And it looks like one thing they agreed on is that this bill would not include any additional aid for Israel and Ukraine. So
Right.
that's a good thing. I guess not for
Right.
Ukraine and Israel, but for the American taxpayer, it is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So the question is, what comes next? And so things seem to be dying down a little bit. No Ukraine, Russia talk, as you mentioned. No, the Israeli situation is not really good mainstream news outside of China, or I'm sorry, President Xi being in the country this week. That got a lot of attention on the alternative media scene. And I have my concerns about the outcome of this. Excuse me. But what are your thoughts initially on President Xi being here? Because we had what's his name, Biden came out with you call him a dictator, and it slipped, and they showed a video clip of Blinken's face. He was like, like this is not that goes well. But we had that dinner amongst the global, not global, but tech leaders or whatnot. So what do you sense from all that?
Well, I actually think Biden got away with that question quite well. He said, well, that's because in their country, it's a communist country, so they don't have the same system. I thought that was actually quite a good answer. But what it feels to me is that she has become like right and left political. All the people on the alternative right are saying, "Oh, he's genocidal." How can you talk to the guy and things like that? Like people like Kyle Bass. But you look back at when Trump was president, he said, "Oh, he invited him to Mar-a-Lago, wined and dined in." Said, "Oh, she is a really good guy. He's a great leader." And you look back at communist China, who opened up communist China? Well, President Nixon. He was a Republican. Who got, I think, the WTO, the process starting. Well, it was Clinton. So it doesn't matter which party is in power. And as I said to you before we came on, not just in the US, but here in the UK, a lot of the stuff that we buy is still made in China. So I think it's more of the divide and conquer. And I think it's because the Israel Hamas thing has gone off the boil. So they need to find another enemy. So I think they're pushing this China thing now.
Yeah.
I don't think anything is going to change. I listened to Xi Jinping speak. He sounded very diplomatic and stuff and everything. But I think, yeah, the American political class is divided on that. And yeah, Nikki Haley, for example, I read that she's becoming like one of the favorites to become president for the Republicans. So I
Really?
would say she would be very anti-Chinese. So I guess
Wow.
one thing that I heard he did, that was good, is that he ended the homeless problem in downtown San
San Francisco.
Francisco. And some people said, well, maybe we should send him to the Texas or U.S. Mexico border. He might solve the
Right.
migrant
Right. Now,
crisis.
yeah, so that was interesting, man. Like whole Newsom, prior to this visit here, California or San Francisco, especially, I'm hearing just from all the video footage is just a crap hole. And all of a sudden, we got him coming into town. They cleaned things up. I saw video footages of them replacing and moving the homeless into, basically off the main roads and stuff like that. And so, my personal opinion on this front that the U.S. is putting up, they're literally trying to slow down the great East-West divide. I'd imagine them biting China here. They're trying to smooth things over, patty cake it up a little bit, trying to maintain some sort of a tie. Just because with the BRICS and the Belt and Road Initiative and all that stuff that they're working on, it further isolates the U.S. And
Mm.
so, what better way to bring him into town, make some promises, shake some hands, promise him some things to either slow things down or try to reverse things. And so that's why I was mentioning about that dinner where you got all the top tech companies being there. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna bring our country's best technology sectors to this table. We'll let them help you out and yada yada. We can still position ourselves in your country. And so it's one of the things where I think we're more so trying to appease that side of the world than allowing us to continue to remain dominant, because we don't have that stance no more, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, maybe
but
it's
we'll
just
see what comes out of it.
for domestic consumption, because I think the BRICS project is like really unstoppable. And
Mm-hmm.
aside from tech guys, you also had people like Larry Fink of BlackRock. You had
Yeah.
Steven Schwartzman of Blackstone. You had Ray Dalio, the hedge fund guy, and I'm sure there were a few other people there from finance.
Mm-hmm.
But what is interesting is that, yeah, like I said, back during World War II, the IBM, they had the patent and they ran the system in the concentration camps to like keep track of the inmates and the
Yeah.
numbers. I think one of the subsidiaries of Standard Oil produced synthetic oil for the Germans during World War II.
Really.
George W. Bush's granddad, Prescott Bush, his bank worked with the Germans. They were even found after World War II to be banking, dealing with the enemy, and they got a slap, from Congress. But what I'm trying to say is that even if we do have a war, West versus East, these people are still going to keep doing business. That's how it
Yeah.
always has been. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I came across an article this morning just talking about how far along things are. And so this is from Watcher.guru, but it says BRICS, 155 countries signed Belt and Road Initiative with China for trade. So as of now, according to some details in this article here, there's 150 countries and 30 organizations that all signed up to be a part of this development. So there's no stopping this as of now. So what
Yeah.
better way you can't stop it. So you either appease the persons or the nations involved with it, or you try to find a way to wiggle yourself in there without making it look like you're giving up. And that's why I think the U.S. right now is not in the best position of strength right now. So I can imagine them being very desperate to do some things that we'll probably look back and like, damn, they sold it. I'll probably look back and say, man, they sold our country out just because
Yeah.
of the way things are heading right now.
And the thing is, like, I think there's only about 195 countries in the world, so that's a big chunk.
Right.
And the other thing, I think the Chinese know that there's a big faction in the U.S., the right, that are very anti-China, and if they get into power next year in the White House, things are going to change. So, yeah, Xi was being very diplomatic, but I think in the back of his head, he knows that. Things are, I think his biggest ally is Russia, really, not the
Right.
US.
Right. And that's the thing, like just from hearing and as I continue to learn more about how the Asian region operates, they got their 10, 20-year plan already written out. And it's good to say they're going to stay on track with that, regardless of what the U.S. throws their way. So, but time will tell. So we'll figure it out. But let's get to some more headlines. What else we got here? So just here's another headline that impacts our country as well. And so we got the UAW situation kind of resolved, but then as a result of that, all the funds that these companies will now be spending will ultimately impact the employment of a lot of their staff. And so, as a part of this reshaping of the car industry, we got Stellantis, offering buyouts, and then there's other articles about people looking to downsize and things like that. And so, this is the great reshaping of our automotive sector here. So, this is one of many to come as they try to transition as best they can to this electric vehicle, which is not
Yeah,
working. There's more stuff piled up than people are buying. But yeah, this is what's happening in Main Street over here in the city of Detroit and surrounding
yeah,
areas. So,
I know. And I think it was a few months ago, they had like a Chinese official talking to a UK journalist. And
mhm.
the guy asked, so how do you view our relationship, China UK? and he said, "Well, UK is an influential country," and then he went on to talk about all the things that China is best and does the most in the world, and car manufacturing was one of them. So, 10 years ago, China didn't even produce many cars, and they seem to, you know, uh, you might not like their political system, but they're doing really well economically, and
Yeah,
they learn very quickly, and they went from producing very cheap stuff, and now they're producing cars. So that's like a symptom of that. They're probably going to take over a lot of the stuff,
yeah.
and that's why Detroit, which used to be, probably still is, the major auto manufacturing region in the world,
Well,
is
yeah.
I mean, it's been going downhill for many decades, but yeah.
Yeah, like I've witnessed throughout my entire adult life of just the reshaping of our metropolitan area, and it was all manufacturing based. But then again, it's been hollowed out, and a lot of things now just unaffordable. Like I see, like this there we transitioned to everybody wanting trucks, big SUVs. And them SUVs right now, they got the Wagoneer. The Chrysler plant Wagoneer, looked at the base model, was like 70,000 or 60. I mean, it's something where I'm like, it's nice, but it ain't that nice. So, but people find a way to get their trucks around here. So it's trucks everywhere.
Mm.
And okay, can they really afford those things when things turn or things hit the fan? We'll find out. But yeah, that's the American way or the Michigan way.
Strange.
Trucks. Everybody.
I remember, in the 70s, I was, teenager, or 10, or when they had the oil crisis, and all the problems with more expensive gas in the US. Prior to that, they used to have huge cars, the big
Station
Cadillacs.
wagon.
And then everyone said, "Oh, we're gonna have to drive really small cars." But then you're back to, like, now you're driving even bigger pickup trucks, and, like, it's weird. It just goes in cycles.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So let's get to a couple of Twitter.
You remember the Ford Pinto?
I've seen them. I don't see them anymore, but I saw them around when I was younger.
I think they used to blow up. You hit them, and they used to go.
I didn't hear about that though.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a couple little Twitter threads real quick. And so this one goes back to that transition. So this is just people standing up and applauding. Said capitalism clapping for a communist leader, Xi Jinping, or whatever. I thought this was interesting. So he was treated like royalty by our dignitaries. So that was interesting there. And then here's another one here about the BRICS update. The de-dollarization process already began, and so we got
Yeah.
there
And that
talking
was
about payment platform. Go ahead.
that was in the same day, on the same day that Putin and Xi were getting together. Lavrov was saying, this is unstoppable. De-dollarization is set in stone.
Mm-hmm. A process has been set in motion for the world leaders to make recommendations on alternative payment platforms. There is no stopping. This is not just limited to the BRICS, but also Latin America and the Caribbean. So, yeah, they're working towards something. Time will tell. And China and the United States have agreed to pursue efforts to triple renewable energy capacity globally by 2030. Triple. Okay, good point. And then the last one here, we got this one from, I think this is Tavi's here.
Yeah.
So give us a rundown on this one. This one you
Yeah, it
shared
just
this with me.
goes. Yeah. So it just goes to show how investors have very, very little exposure to the gold.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that 71% of advisors have little or no exposure. They have less than 1% of assets allocated to gold. So it's very small. And between 1 and 5%, it's only like 27%. And there's no fund managers or asset managers that have more than a 10% allocation to gold. So it just goes to show how it's and silver probably is on in the same boat. Just goes to show how unloved the sector is, and I think that's still a good thing, because if you go back to the year 2000, gold is given around just over 9% return
Yeah.
on average every year for all the major currencies. So yeah, but I think that's the way the powers that be want it. They don't want people involved in gold because it's very important for them.
Yeah, and speaking of which, let's just look at the little market activity here. So I noticed there's been a little bit of a slight reversal. It's typical.
Oh yeah, I mean this morning, London time and early afternoon. When the U.S. came in, we were testing almost 2,000, but it's typical.
Yeah.
Uh, I think if gold only traded in the U.S., it would still be at $35 an ounce.
Oh man, yeah. So silver got up to
Silver got up
24.14.
Yeah, it got up above 24 as well. Yeah,
Man, that's
I mean, I don't know, the CFTC, it happens almost literally every day.
every
And
day.
it's not normal that a market does the same thing every day. But the thing is, the bullion banks, the Wall Street, the powers that be, they run those regulators. They
Right,
are not there to help mom and pop with their investments or trading or whatever. It's
right.
corrupt.
Right. And they got a lot to lose. If that price breaks out, people will really begin questioning all the paper derivatives and everything in between that
Mm.
they've used to financialize the entire world, and people would start, making some tough decisions, which would be in their favor. So, all right. So what we got? Let's get into some questions. Let's get into some questions. And so what I want to do is put together a little link for those. We did something last week. I enjoyed it, having a chance to have those who were watching us join us face to face to ask a quick thought or share a comment. So feel free to throw out some questions or anything that caught your attention this week that is worth bringing to the fold. Definitely would love to hear from you guys. And give me a second, and Mario, check and see if you see anything, and I'll put together a link real quick and
Yeah,
go
there's
from
a question here about ads during live stream is nuts. Someone's
there.
saying there's ads. I'm not sure. I mean, if there are ads during the live stream.
Yeah, so like that's not so outside of just initiating ad revenue, you can they're literally shifting things to their own to where they put ads according to what
Yeah,
they want. So
yeah,
it's nothing you can really do about it because Google
yeah.
wants
Well, and
Alphabet wants their bread.
someone's asking as well, why does Andy Scheckman go on a YouTube channel that promotes buying the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong? Well, I'll answer. I mean, I don't know what Andy Scheckman thinks because it's his own mind, and I've had him on my channel, and we'll have him again. But I haven't seen this video, and maybe the person that runs the channel believes in this Iraqi dinar idea, which I don't. But maybe
Yeah,
they were just talking about silver and gold. So, but it doesn't mean just because someone believes in something that you can't talk to them about something else. That's how I see things.
yeah.
What's your view on this? There are a lot of people who believe in this Iraqi dinar thing that they're going to revalue it, but why would they do that? Iraq is like an occupied country still.
Right. So when people ask me that same question, I just mention the fact that at this current moment, all fiat currencies are in the same boat. Every government issues those debt instruments. They're all trying to save their own behinds. Therefore, they're not going to put more value back into your pocket. At the same time, they're trying to keep their government afloat. So more likely, they're going to continue to debase the currency. So, I don't see any of the Middle Eastern countries trying to back their fiat currencies with some type of tangible asset without, for the sake of making their people and putting their people back in better positions. So
Yeah.
I don't trade the forex nothing like that. So I don't mess with that stuff, man. I don't mess with it. So
Yeah, I
everybody
just
know
think
where you
it's
want to be at.
a waste of time to be like. There are some people I think who buy Iraqi dinar, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't. I would stick to gold and silver, really.
yeah. I understand. So I just put the link out there for those who might want to join us face to face for a quick thought and have a little back and forth. It's good to be able to connect with people directly. Here is something here from Viv B. It says, Mike Mario, please look at Project Sela from the BIS. All assets in the world tokenized on a unified ledger, even forest, fisheries, your labor involves smart contracts. This is how you own nothing. Okay. I believe that's a part of their plan. And that's part of the whole advent of the crypto digital asset space, is to be utilized for that purpose at the end. So I don't doubt it. So I'll look into that more. Project Sela, it's different.
Yeah, I won't want to have too much in that blockchain. That's for sure. And hopefully it doesn't work out. Project Sela or whatever. All these central banks, they're not. Well, they seem to be all powerful, but hopefully one day they won't be around anymore.
Yeah, that'd be great. Here's a little bit of that Project Sela. So I haven't heard of that, so I'll definitely look into it. So thanks for bringing it to our attention. Interesting. That is interesting. All right, what else we got going on here? Feel free to throw out some thoughts, ideas. Says question. That's
Yeah,
libertarian.
libertarian.
Question: How far go the miners down with the U.S. tax things in general? 20%, 40% down.
I'm not sure what that means with the U.S. tax thing.
How far go the
What's a
miners? How far go the miners down with the
what
USA
do you
tax?
mean by USA tax thing? I'm not sure what that means.
That I don't know. But we do have. Looks like somebody's attempting to join us. Let's see if we can get him on here. Mr. Keenan, are you there, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? Can you guys hear me okay?
I can. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Pretty good. Sorry, I was trying to get the camera going. But my question was along the lines of the reverse repo market. That's been something that Mario, your buddy Jack Gamble over at Nobody Special, really talks about, and we look at that most of the days. What's your take on its recent accelerated draining and how that may affect liquidity in terms of keeping the bond market at a sustainable rate or yield?
Yeah, I've seen that it's been dropping quite, in like a straight line. So you can extrapolate that it will probably be at zero, I think, sometime next year, like in February. Yeah, I think that just drains because I think all that reverse repo money has been used to go into the treasury market because there's so much issuance by the U.S. government. And and that's not good. It takes away liquidity from the banking system. And I think Rafi Faber today, he on his report that I get, he said that the banks are the SOFR, which is the interbank lending in the U.S. That's gone through the roof, which means that banks are having trouble with liquidity. So yeah,
the repo rate that just the overnight.
No, not the repo rate. The amount that they borrow in the software, which is like different than repo, that's gone up in terms of dollar amount, not the rate. But there's a lot of people predicting that all hell will break loose when that reverse repo goes to zero. I'm not sure. I
right
don't.
Now, if you look at certain analysts, their line draws that right around mid-February, but the
Yeah,
last 3 days it's down by like 100 and something billion.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why central banks are getting ready for some kind of bond debacle. The Bank of England had a meeting last week, so I'm sure they're watching that too.
Yeah, they haven't all been running gold for no reason. They're getting their weight up big time. Keenan, man, how you doing? It's good to see you, my friend.
You as well. Everything's
all right.
great.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks for answering the question.
Nice.
Yeah. Good stuff. Appreciate you, Kay. All right. So, yeah, feel free to join us or share a thought or something like that. Would love to connect with you guys. Throw some thoughts out in the chat. No question is a dumb question. War for God. Where's war for food? What we got here? Yelling tax things. Criminals. What else we got here? Banks. A lot of talk about yelling. It's 100% priced in. It's 100% increase in price considered hyperinflation. What is it? Is it a month? Certain prices go up above 50% or something like that a month.
I would say 100% a year
100%?
Is hyperinflation. I mean, and it could get a lot worse. It could get into the millions of percent, but that's a complete loss of confidence in the currency. It's possible.
Mr. Me says, "Hello, Mario. Appreciate your efforts from a boots on the ground viewpoint. Have you seen any increase in public awareness for gold and silver as a form of inflation hedge by regular folks in the UK?"
Not really. No, I haven't really. People are still really, maybe a little, you see some shops like pawn shops selling more gold and silver, but I don't meet people and they say, "Oh, I'm starting to buy gold." I haven't seen it yet. I've noticed. I don't listen to the radio too much, but when I'm driving the car, I put the news program in the radio, and sometimes I get an advert from a bullion company on the radio. So yeah, I think it's nowhere close to the crypto craze. I would say that we have. So
Yeah.
it's still, which goes to prove to me that we're nowhere near, topping long term in gold or
Yeah.
silver, be it in pounds or dollars. Maybe in the U.S. there's more people buying, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's gone. You know. To the point where almost everyone's talking about it.
Right. I see more ads, but I don't see or hear or talk to people buying it. I know more people in my inner circle have definitely started to get their weight up more throughout the years and coming at me with questions on what to do with my 401k, what to do with my pension. Anyway, so what's up, my friend? How you doing? What's your name, buddy? Uh-oh.
Oh,
Lost him. Hopefully he'll come back on.
yeah.
Let me see. I saw something, another question about XRP. What are your thoughts on XRP in the financial system or something?
I'll let you answer that.
Let me see if I can find it. So yeah, I've noticed a lot of people talk about XRP and how they're literally helping set up and establish CBDCs in real time right now. So as I always mentioned before, CBDCs is nothing we want to play around with, and then the people that support them and helping them also are not your friends. So having a bag of XRP, it can be beneficial in the short run, but because you don't control the software code in the back end, it can easily be reversed, in my opinion. So I think that stuff can be turned on, turned off on the back end because that's how they're going to get everybody trapped in the system.
I heard it's banker project, and a few years ago, there's a guy, I forgot his first name, but he's from the Mellon family, Mellon banking family.
Mm-hmm.
The Secretary of the Treasury in the 30s or 20s was a Mellon. They're a very wealthy family, and he died, and he had $500 million worth of Repo, but no one knew his private,
private keys to get it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I know.
Now, there's love.
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me?
How you doing, my friend? What's your name, buddy?
Hey, my name is Joshua, man. I called a couple times on your live streams at 9 o'clock. I'm from New York. I just wanted
Appreciate
to say,
you, man.
I hear you guys talking about gold, silver, and the fluctuation of the prices, and I wanted to mention that China is actually working with the United States, and that's why we see them selling us out. Many of the times when they send us money over to the different countries, those countries are actually using that money to trade within themselves. So when we send over money, a lot of the times, like when they buy products, guns, whatever, oil, that money doesn't come back to the United States because, like you said, BRICS is their own thing. And when they're saying that's unstoppable, it's a reason for that. We're going to have to build back better. Like, my question is, do you think that America is going to, have internal conflict? So basically a civil war before we have to then group together to join in with whatever China's got going on, because it's I don't think it's a question more. I think it's a when more than a what, because we know what it is.
Yeah. I think the U.S. is really divided. There's more. I think there's a bigger chance of a civil war than a war against another country in the U.S. And I don't even think it's a matter of joining China, joining BRICS. It's a matter of just cooperating with all different countries and respecting each country. Because right now, unfortunately, and I'm not saying the American people do this, but the American government, since 1990, I think, since the Soviet Union collapsed, they think they can really, dictate to everyone around the world. So yeah, I think that would be a good thing. But before that happens, I think you're going to have a lot of internal problems in the U.S. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Civil unrest, civil war for sure. That's
That's
definitely
sure.
what they're trying to brew up, because I think that's a way to get us to turn on each other, and then also give them an excuse to militarize our dang country and try to really control us before stuff hits the fan and people lose everything they thought they had in banks and things like that. So yeah, I imagine that's a part of their plan, unfortunately.
But I don't think the Chinese are planning this. It's just happening
Right.
from within.
Man, that's the thing. See, that's the thing about the United States. You know, we have these scammers, we have these fraudsters, schemers, and I think with the system being abused as it is, I think the United States politicians, the police, they are playing both sides of the fence. You know, they have the saying with the Democrats, defund the police. But in reality, when you do that, people are let out, and the same people that's being let out are the ones that are crashing the system in essence. So I think what the top politicians are doing is they're wanting to allow the system to crash so that the bailout leaves us with no option but to submit and let our privacy and whatnot be taken. But like I said again, I think it's more so the when. I think the United States is scared right now. I think they're pulling the cards in which they're saying, all right, have mercy, China, have mercy, Russia, because they know that the Eastern countries, they've never liked us. You know, they kind of say that the United States plays the police of the world, and I'm starting to think that how can you play the police when you started off as the bully? You know?
Well, the other thing as well, though, I'm not sure whether the Russian people hate Americans, because did you know that the Russians helped the Union during the Civil War? They put like naval ships in New York Harbor and San Francisco, and if it wasn't for the Russians, I think the UK and France would have helped the South. So people have short memories. I think it's just like the deep state in Russia and China and the US fighting each other. The people of all the different countries, I think we're friends, and that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah. Well, hey, Josh, appreciate you, my man.
All right, man.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Thank you. Great insight, young man.
Someone said
Marcus
callers
Aurelius.
describing the policy of George Soros. That's a good point.
Right,
Yeah.
good point. And also, speaking of which, I got. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Controller Garks?
No.
It just came out Tuesday, so I
That's
got
good.
me a copy.
Well, who's the author?
It's Seamus Brunner,
Oh,
Seamus Brunner.
yeah.
And so I did like a little video on it yesterday just to thumb through it, and it got a
This
lot of
is
interesting
the
numbers.
latest book I got, Inflationary Fairies. This lady contacted me, and she homeschools. She homeschooled her children, and she's really knowledgeable about inflation. She's written a book that's more fun to read and
Yeah,
explains inflation. So I
really.
just I have to read it.
Bet. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
look,
want to
that's her
let me know
name,
how that goes.
Stephanie Peterson.
Stephanie Peterson. Yeah, let me know how that goes. I'm curious.
I need to get her on my channel. She's interesting.
Good deal. What we got to see more questions, but
ES has got a question, I think, there for me.
yes, Mario, you had a call this morning with someone and no issues. What happening with these guys? Don't sign up for a live stream if you don't have a quiet spot. Super distracting.
Sorry?
I have no idea. Mario, you had a call this morning with someone and no issues. Don't know.
I think I had Clive on it wasn't a live stream, it was recorded.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what issues he's talking about.
If you don't, don't know, buddy. P.S. Be more specific as to what you're referring to.
Yeah.
What else we got here? March 2024. Whatever. Hyperinflationary. Joseph says, "Is a hyperinflationary or deflationary financial collapse more likely?" That. Thank you, Mario, for identifying the Great Taking book and your review on the book last week.
I don't know. I think eventually everything will collapse, but we could have, yeah, it's difficult to say. I think it's going to get inflationary first, and then if they don't keep inflating, it could collapse. So it's difficult to say.
Medical 64 says Charles gave French financial guru who is a gold bug says when nuclear fusion works, gold will go to zero.
Good, that's fine.
It's possible, but we got a long way between now and then, I think.
I'm not sure why that would be the case. People still value gold. I've heard of this guy Charles Gave or Gav. I'm not sure he's a guru, but and I mean nuclear fusion. Yeah, I mean, does he think that energy will be free? But I think human beings, they always have conflict with each other. Who's it going to benefit nuclear fusion? So I don't know.
Right. Well, we're approaching that mark. And I know you have an appointment, some things to get to. So as always, people, it's been great to hang out and appreciate the participation of you guys coming on, sharing thoughts, asking questions, getting us, getting the wheels churning, getting us thinking about what could and could be in the future. So appreciate you guys for joining us. And back at it next week, same time, same place. Any last thoughts, Mario?
Yeah, well, yeah, there are a lot of people who try to say, oh, gold's going to go to zero. They're going to mine it in asteroids. And this guy is saying about fusion. I just think it's just distraction, and I wouldn't worry about it. And final thoughts. Always try to ignore all the division and focus on yourself, your family, your friends, and community. That's it.
Yeah. Enjoy the weekend, man. And remember, despite all the distractions out here when it comes to wealth preservation.
Just one more question here. Someone's asked me, how strong is your faith in HM Treasury, which is the UK Treasury? Very little. I have no faith in them. Majesty's Treasury, no faith.
No faith in government liabilities at this current moment when they are scrambling and trying to keep them heads above water. But all right, my good people. Be blessed, be safe. Back at it next week, Lord willing, and just enjoy your weekend, man. Stay prayed up, get your